Hey friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking in my purgatory box. The Target box is just here because it was convenient. This is not a haul. In fact, it's the opposite, because while I call this my purgatory box, in actuality, I've mostly made the decision already. And to explain why things are here, I need to just give you a little bit of story time. But before that, if you're new here, then hi, I'm Audrey. I make videos about makeup and skincare with a focus on people who have rosacea and very dry skin and the particular issues that we encounter with that. I also like to talk about how makeup can be used as a reflection of our inner self to really show the world who we are inside. And so if any of those things sound interesting to you, I really hope that you'll subscribe and stick around because I would love to see you back. So now let's get into the box. The background on this is that in 2019, I was just starting to get back into makeup after a fairly long period of time where I really hadn't been paying close attention. And if you watched my video about rosacea, you know I really was neglecting my skincare. So with my 40th birthday looming, I thought, let's do something about this. I don't like what I see. I don't feel like, who I feel I want to be going into this part of my life. And so I went to Sephora and I talked to the clerk and I said, hey, I haven't done makeup in years. Please help me. And it was the start. It really was my opportunity to begin thinking about not just what makeup could I be wearing, what was the trend right then, what might look good on me, but also what makeup did I like? Because in the past, with it, I really had different skin, different needs in terms of my lifestyle and different tastes. My personal aesthetic had changed quite a bit in that time period. And so I really didn't know where to start other than just to ask, what do most people do these days, And it's been a really interesting journey from there. So that spring 2019, I walked into Sephora and the clerks very helpfully said, okay, yeah, let me show you. And they, did a basic makeup routine. And I talked to them about how I really didn't have any products. So, what sorts of things would it make sense to buy first? And one of those was a BB cream that I don't remember actually the name of, just that while it gave me a lot of coverage, it also really emphasized the lines here around my eyes. And so in a way, that started that search for the perfect foundation that you will still see me doing today on this channel. Aside from that, another thing that I bought that I still have, it's here in the box, is this bronzer from Tarte. Their Park Avenue Princess Amazonian Clay Waterproof Bronzer. And I'm still not really sure on the waterproof part of it, and I don't think I've ever put it to the test. It's a powder bronzer, perfectly okay. Not really, not personally my favorite shade now that I've tried more bronzers. But, if I had anything in my arsenal, it was going to be foundation and bronzer. So there we go. It's in the box because I wasn't using it. I really, I just don't think that this is something I would have picked out for myself, having more experience with the makeup that is on the market. But it's not really a regret, although I suspect that this was overpriced. Next, I have some things that I can blame YouTube for. I don't remember exactly which influencer was talking about which thing, just that these were somewhere in that time period kind of hyped up. So I have the NYX Strobe of Genius Illuminating Palette. I have never opened this. I mean, fortunately, it's a drugstore product. It wasn't super expensive. But I think when I got it home, I realized that most of these weren't even adjacent to my own skin tone. While I find the sort of lavender highlighter intriguing, not going to get a lot of use out of that, and the ones that are significantly more tan than I am are especially not helpful. And since it's a cheap thing, I really just could have thrown it out, but something about that feels wasteful, and also, I don't know. And also, I mean, I don't know, maybe those sharp powder highlights will come back into trend. Possibly not before this is toast. But that's why it's in the box. Another YouTube hyped product that actually I think still makes the rounds is this Essence Pure Nude Highlighter. another one that I have yet to open. It still even has the tape on it. I think, again, this is one of those things that really suffered from me picking it up at the end of that trend, you know, that sort of 2016, 2017 bright, bold powder highlight. It was already getting to be on its way out. And certainly, you know, 2020 and 2021, like, we were not doing that anymore. So I think this is both not really my style in terms of the color and the type of highlight. But again, I think it demonstrates that, you know, when you're new to a thing, you don't really know what you like yet. And I mean, again, I'd worn makeup in my 20s, but it wasn't going to be the kind of thing that was either on trend or, you know, what I still found interesting. So that rediscovery process did lead to some powder highlights that stayed in their box that, you know, weren't so expensive. It just feels a little silly. And then the other thing that I would put in that category is this JCat Aquassurance Compact Foundation. It's a powder foundation. And I have nothing against powder foundations. I've worn them. Not so much these days with the dry skin. Although I do plan at some point this summer to circle back to that and maybe do a like hot weather dry skin powder foundation test of some sort. You know, we'll see. If there's a powder foundation you think that I should check out, please leave me a comment because they seem to be having a little bit of a resurgence. It would be interesting to hear, you know, what you'd like to see me try. So with this product, there are really two problems. One of them is that I bought it out of that sort of, you know, what if I decide that I like powder foundation on my skin, my current skin, as much as I liked powder foundation in my 20s? You know, okay, legitimate question. The other problem is just that it's extremely peach. And on my skin, this is not going to blend in very well. And I think that this is another kind of problem with powder foundations, that a more lightweight liquid foundation, you can sheer it out, you can blend it with other things. But with a powder foundation, to me anyhow, I feel like there's a bit less leeway in that respect. There's only so far you can sheer it out and still have coverage from the product. And so finding something that has a shade match that's, you know, a little bit more in the ballpark for me would be pretty important. But again, it's an inexpensive product. I think occasionally you do still see influencers talking about this. So at some point somebody's going to revive it as like a cult classic thing or something, when really it was just kind of hyped up in 2018. And yeah, that's fine. This is another one that I don't know why I'm holding on to it thinking that, oh, maybe somebody I know will take it. It was a, you know, it's the kind of purchase that, like, it's not the end of the world if I have to toss it. Okay, and then following that, I have something that wasn't influencer hype, but just marketing hype. NYX came out with this whole series of mochi-themed products. And there was something about that, like, squishy texture that they were showing that I was just so curious. So curious, in fact, that I went and I checked multiple stores to be able to buy this in person because I think it was out of stock online. And despite that, I have yet to open it. You know, it's the Love You So Mochi eyeshadow palette in electric pastels. And looking at this, once I sort of got over my own personal hype issue around it, I realized these are just, if I'm wearing eyeshadow, these are not really the colors that I would gravitate toward. I think the combination of sort of blue and yellow is interesting, but this is meant for somebody else. And, you know, after having some cool off time, I also felt like, why do I want squishy eyeshadow? Is this an attribute that I've been waiting for? I don't think it is. It's old enough that I'm not sure, you know, I'm not sure if this will have dried out so much that it can't be used, but I'm tempted to put it on eBay. Sometimes the weirdest limited edition things are of interest to somebody, so, you know, maybe I can get my $6, $12, $8, like whatever it was back. Who knows? On the other hand, if somebody watching this sees it and they were like, oh yeah, I remember that, I wish I had that, like, just let me know and I'll send it to you. That would be fine too. I have a couple of lip liners here that have the same problem. They are very nearly the same shade. I have the Rare Beauty Kind Words lip liner in the shade Creative. And then I have a NYX Line Loud pencil in Daring Damsel. And they are very similar shades. So if for whatever reason you're looking for a dupe of the Rare Beauty one, you know, go ahead and try the NYX. But the problem with these, I'll swatch them so you can see. They're not quite as close as I was thinking, but in the same color family. So these are both very warm shades. There was kind of I don't know, 6-month period where I was convinced that if I just tried enough peach colored things that I was going to discover that sort of like warm peach, you know, kind of creamy color was going to look good on me, or at least look the way that I wanted to. And the answer is no. For the most part, that is not the color that I like on me. So buying 2 lip pencils that are, you know, in that same sort of color family, thinking that like if one didn't work, maybe the other one would, or I forget. I think I bought these at about the same time. That's a really silly thing to do, you know? I could have probably just tried one peach lip product and... Sorry, I had to step away for a minute. I think what I was saying is that once you've got one peach-ish lip product and didn't like how it looked on your skin tone, there's no reason to keep buying them just to see if this one's different. It just seems like that was one of those weird fantasy moments where you try to convince yourself that something looks a way that it doesn't. I have no explanation for it beyond that. So for a lot of this, we've been talking about things that are in that drugstore price range, but I have a couple of items that are that more, not super expensive, but more high-end Sephora kind of territory. One of them is a mini Hourglass ambient lighting bronzer in Luminous Bronze Light. And this, I bought the mini because I wasn't really sure if I would like this thing. And Hourglass is so hyped up, you know? Honestly, I think that they're, I don't know, overhyped, but I don't get it for the amount that they charge. I just think that this really wasn't a flattering color at all on me, and I just didn't see what the point was, you know? Like, it's an okay powder formula, it's not mind-blowing. That swirl of color doesn't really do much for the final product. I'm trying to swatch it so that maybe you can get a sense of the color, although next to the sort of peachy lip liners, I don't know if that's going to help or hurt. But it really just has this ultra pale sort of grungy orange tone to it. And I'm sure that looks good on somebody, but it definitely doesn't look it on me. And I could have swatched this, you know, I think this is in the category of things where if I had swatched it in the store and looked at it again with a bit of honesty about how it actually appeared and, you know, how it fits even my sense of what colors I like, I would have skipped it. It just doesn't do anything for me. It has no place in my collection, and I'm glad that I stopped at the mini instead of getting an entire palette. So in general with Hourglass, I think there are nice powder formulas out there. I think that I just need to remember with Hourglass that it might not be to my taste, it might not be to my color preference, and they charge a lot for what is a nice, light, creamy, luminous powder, but certainly not the only one on the market. Another way that like fantasy self or sort of fantasy idea about how you actually use makeup played out is this Smashbox, this little Smashbox trio. And it's a perfectly good little eyeshadow trio, some nice neutral kind of grayish shades that could be something that you find very useful every day. But what I learned about myself from buying this is that if I wear eyeshadow, I don't want everyday eyeshadow. If I wear eyeshadow, I want eyeshadow that does a thing. So this might be a great putting eyeshadow on before going to work kind of product for people. But I don't have that use case. That is never my use case. If I really want an everyday, just throw it on eyeshadow, I'm going to grab a shadow stick. I find those so much faster to work with. They come in a variety of neutral shades from different companies. And so there's just not a morning where I'm thinking, wow, I'd really like a nice neutral everyday powder eyeshadow. Not for me. So good product, wrong person. But a useful lesson. All right, continuing in the eye products I don't wear category, I have a completely unopened package of Covergirl Exhibitionist Mascara in black. And this is probably a perfectly good mascara. You know what else I don't wear on an everyday basis besides neutral eyeshadow? I don't wear mascara on an everyday basis. To me, mascara is a special occasion, special effect kind of thing. And so I don't need this. I really should not be buying mascara unless I can point to a specific date in the future that I intend to wear it, because that's how little I use it. And given that it really only has a lifespan of a few months, this being an unopened package, it's possible that somebody else could make use of it, but it's a drugstore mascara, so not the most precious item in the world. Finally, I'm going to close out with a silly purchase that isn't actually in the box, because as silly it is, I intend to keep it, and it is not in a price range, or was not in a price range that I feel like just chucking it in the trash. Maybe some sunk cost fallacy, but that's how it goes. It is a Tarte Pro Remix eyeshadow palette. This was $90-something. And, in that kind of category of not knowing what colors I like in terms of makeup and not really knowing how I use makeup at this stage in my life, it smells like chocolate, and that's a very appealing thing. I love the packaging. Like, it's sort of a very retro color scheme, as well as the holographic finish. This is, packaging wise, this is so appealing to me. When I look at the colors, what I see is a mix of some neutral mattes for base layers, and then a bunch of shimmers in different colors. And as a whole, this isn't really a combination of colors that I'm likely to be putting on my face. I like the gold shade. The gold shade is the one that I can remember using at any point, because I really like playing around with that pop of, inner corner color. And it's a nice shimmery gold for that. I just know, looking at this, that it would have been way smarter to get individual eyeshadow pans in some of the colors that were most appealing to me, that there is no reason for me to have an entire palette made up of these colors altogether. And I didn't need a $90 eyeshadow palette. Just didn't. Even for the occasions that I want a dramatic eye look, there are so many ways that I could accomplish that. And and so I pull this out, and I open it every so often just to look at it and to admire how aesthetically pleasing it is to me, but not to use it. And I will thank it for its service of being a pretty object that I didn't need to buy, that reminded me to really think about, even for the things that are prettiest and fanciest, how am I actually going to use it? When am I going to use it? Am I going to use all of it? Makeup doesn't last forever. And so I don't need to collect a whole bunch of possibilities for things that I am not going to do, or never, that I'm not going to do in the next 12 months, let's say. And that's really been a change in my buying habits and spending over time, that I really like to focus on, that I really set a boundary around speculative purchases. Things where I look at it and I say, oh, if I was in this situation, I would use it. Or if I wanted to do this, I would use it. As opposed to next Tuesday, I have a party and this is what I'm going to wear. Or, you know, every day next week, I'd really like to feel like I am polished and glam in this particular way. And so this is the tool I need. Unless I can point to something very specific, I try not to buy it, you know? I try to have a place for it in my routine, a place for it in my life, to have a few things that are for fantasy dress up, but not an entire catalog of them, you know? I could have gotten everything that I wanted aesthetically out of this so many ways. You know, there are so many good eyeshadows out there on the market. I don't even know if I think this is a good formula. So that's where it comes into this conversation as just a silly item. And I think with these kinds of purchases, having the silly items that you look at and can be honest with yourself, they are really educational. They are really something that can help shape your choices in the future, your buying habits in the future toward things that are going to just make you happy. You know, nobody should have a drawer full of makeup that they look at and feel like, why? Why did I do this to myself? You know, or why did I spend my money this way? Or how am I possibly going to, you know, justify it to whatever feelings you have about your money habits and your spending habits. You know, if makeup is going to be something that adds to our life, that augments our, you know, sense of self and our feeling of who we are, then we do need to find that honesty and to learn from what we've tried so that, you know, the next purchase that you make, the next item that you pick up is something that really will just make your heart sing when you pick it up and go to use it. To me, that's the ideal with so many of our purchases. And so with that concludes our little exploration of my purgatory box that is actually on its way out the door. I'll have to decide how I wish to say goodbye to these items, and you know, that's part of the process too. So I would absolutely love to hear what's in your own purgatory box and what things led you to picking that up in the first place. What did it mean to you at the time? Sometimes things are just not reflective of what we really need right now. Sometimes they're reflective of just not seeing that things have changed. And all of those are just, I think, so interesting and so valuable to look at. And I appreciate you being with me on this little journey. Thank you so much. If you haven't yet, I really hope you'll subscribe. I'm doing 2 videos a week right now, and it's going to cover a little bit of everything in terms of the makeup that I think is worth checking out, the ways that we use it, and how all this fits into our lives. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Bye.